We love our jobs. We get so passionate about our jobs. We get so passionate about all the businesses we want to start. Sometimes we take a lot on, or we don't recognize that even though it looks good on paper, there's quite a bit more in that gray area that you have to take on. As I'm sitting here looking at 3 businesses, I'm like, I don't know if I have work-life balance. I talk about these seasons and I talk about my routines, and every single podcast I go on, I get asked the same question, and it's always, how do you do it all? And my answers are pretty similar, but more and more as I take time to think about it, I feel like my work-life balance is off. And I do feel like this is a season where I'm actually learning the true secret code to serial entrepreneurship. There's a difference between investing in a brand and owning a brand and working for a brand. And I think all 3 of those things look very differently. I think that investment opportunities can present themselves in multiple ways. I think there's things like sweat equity. I think there's things like capital investment. But I also feel like when you work for a brand and when you own a brand, there's also a difference there too. When I say own, I don't mean like you own a portion of the brand. I mean like you started it. Maybe you're a founder of the brand. And so through all of this, I'm like, okay, I'm the founder of Echo's Marketing. I acquired Get Super, and now I'm the owner of Get Super. And I am a fractional CMO and investor in Mela. And on paper, this should all work out fine. On paper, I should have enough time. On paper, this should be great. And it is. And there's so many things that are awesome about it. But going back to that, there's also there's all these lessons that I'm learning right now about serial entrepreneurship. And I think the biggest one is that there's this decision you have to make as an entrepreneur if you want to be great and you want to lean into something and be great at it. And then there's also this idea as an entrepreneur where you get to or have the opportunity to diversify your assets. But you also have to make sure that as you're diversifying your assets, you're showing up in your greatness as well, if that makes sense. You're still able to show up and present yourself in the best way possible. And again, on paper, as I look at everything, I really spend some time thinking, like, am I showing up great? Am I showing up as the leader or the investor or the consultant or the employer or the employee as great as I can? Am I showing up as the creator for my own personal brand as great as I can? If given the opportunity to be the greatest of all time, could I sacrifice a lot of what those that were great could sacrifice? And to be completely honest, I think I'm learning that where I'm currently at, I have not been showing up in my greatest light. And again, I've always been honest with you guys, and I've always shared intimate parts of my journey. And now this next chapter of my life has been accepting where I'm at in my mental health, walking through it, growing from it, becoming stronger, supporting myself, giving myself the things I need to move through it and to have these opportunities so that I can be the best that I can be. And now I'm seeing the shift of this new chapter where it's like, great, you have all these things going on. Now, how do you also continue to show up great? And how do you prioritize out of all these things, what thing you're more specifically going to be the greatest at? But and as I started thinking about that, I was like, there's a lot going on here. And I think, again, like as someone that wants to be a serial entrepreneur, as someone that dreams of eventually having so much success that she's able to incubate, startups and help them grow and consult on new products and consult with female entrepreneurs and be part of their team. I think that there's a lot of learning lessons that I assumed I had all figured out being a serial entrepreneur that I'm now really finding myself learning. So I want to talk about those now that we've talked about Tom Brady and my brief knowledge of football and all the things I'm doing. I want to talk about just some things that I've noticed. And I feel like these are also really good learning tips because the other thing that I was thinking about was there's so much going on when you go to start a business, and there's so much going on when you compact that or compound that with your side hustle and your main job or your full time. So, one of the biggest things that I wanted to share in value was number one, the ability to enjoy. Now, we love our jobs. We get so passionate about our jobs. We get so passionate about all the businesses we want to start. And sometimes we take a lot on, or we don't recognize that even though it looks good on paper, there's quite a bit more in that gray area that you have to take on, whether it's additional phone calls, whether it's formulation, whether it's dealing with a annoying supplier, or all of a sudden you have a financial crisis because you didn't read the paperwork. These are not personal experiences. No. Anyway, so all of this, I feel like, again, like we get so passionate, we get so excited, but we don't necessarily look at, okay, yes, this looks good on paper, but there's still so many more things that we have to take on and we have to absorb. And so I think when we go to sit down to manage our time, I think it's really, really important that we learn why we're in it and why we want to have fun with it. So one of the things that I feel like I've learned as being an owner of a marketing agency is that there's things that I do really, really well and I love, and there's things that I don't do well at all and I hate. And a lot of the things that I don't do well and I hate, I procrastinate on. So I've learned very quickly, in order for me to have fun, to kind of avoid that burnout, I need to hire someone who is fucking phenomenal at handling this because I'm not good at it. Now, in the position of kind of going back and thinking about, okay, well, Whitney, maybe I'm still at my full-time job. Maybe I don't have the ability to hire someone. Let's break this down. I think that when you're in that position, there's this narrative of starting right away. Go, go, go. Just start, just do it. And I think that that's a great narrative to have. But I also think that there needs to be fun. There needs to be this element of being in this aligned state and really loving what you're creating, whether that's on your weekends or whether you're taking, one day off from your job and dedicating it to it. But it needs to have that growth. And sometimes it's okay if it takes long. Sometimes it's okay if it takes you fucking 5 years before you even launch your business. It does not matter. There's such this narrative of go, 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 start, start, start. And I truly believe that yes, at some point you have to jump off the cliff and learn how to fly. But I also think that you don't need to get into this rat race and you don't need to see what everyone else is doing and try to be there, because you're going to lose that element. You're going to burn out, especially if you're doing more than one thing. So again, I want to bring this back to serial entrepreneurship, right? I want to bring this back to maybe you're juggling multiple things. This is what this kind of work-life balance episode is about.